So we swapped this Duramax to be a ZF6 Duramax, and here we have our custom Hurst shifter that's bright red. In this video, we're going to show you and tell you basically what we had to do to make it work. Specifically, with all the little tricks that we found out along the way, and what you have to do for tuning, and for what has to be plugged and unplugged and stuff like that. We're going to start with explaining the tunes because they're the most fun. So here we got our little motor ops switch for our EFI Live tunes. That's a DSP5 switch. And we got a nice little paper from Motor Ops saying what our original tunes were. So with the Allison, we had a stock, toe 1, toe 2, a daily tune, and a daily plus 125. Basically, the only power difference that we have now is you bumped up the last two 50 horsepower each. But he had to do a lot of extra programming because he had to make it so that all the error codes would go away for the TCM. However, you can't just delete the TCM because the electric shift transfer case goes through it and the speedometer. So he had to go in there and cancel all the error codes and make it so that these would still work properly so we can still shift on the fly and everything, and that speedometer would work. The other thing he had to do was he had to change the fueling parameters and how the motor would run and stuff, because with an automatic transmission, when the transmission goes to shift, then the computer will actually tell the motor to defuel a little bit to allow it to shift and be a smoother shift. So with a standard, they don't do that. When you step on the throttle, you have throttle. When you let off, you have less. So he had to change that over to work with a manual. So he had to readjust all the fuel parameters to make it work. He tried to go into the BCM and turn off some lights on the dash. For instance, like the Prindle right here. But that didn't work. So we're gonna have to take that bulb out so that it just doesn't show up. So the next thing, it's minor, but we put a nice rubber shift boot on, just a weatherizing one, to keep the water and crap out and the wind noise out. Also, down the road, we plan to do a remote shifter that'll bring it up through the cup holders and put the cup holder and center console in. Mainly so it looks finished, but also something to be nice to keep my DVD player. So, for those of you that are wondering how to remove the shifter that's up on the column when you have an Allison, Hi. Anyways, to remove that, you just basically need to unbolt it. It's, I believe, 3 little Torx. I could be wrong. They could be 10 mils. This thing will come off. If you're impatient like me, once I started to get out of the way, I just yanked on it and pulled it off. And it worked, but this handle will never be useful again. Then you need to take this mechanism for the shifter and you need to zip tie it so that it thinks that it's in park. You need to zip tie it all the way, I believe it was down. Can't remember exactly. It was either up or down. Whichever way allows the key to come out no problem. Then down underneath, the park neutral switch that goes on the transmission, that needs to be set to neutral so that the computers think the truck is in neutral and it'll allow it to fire up and to run properly. Last but not least, to tighten up, last but not least, for the interior, to finish off the whole look of it looking factory, because we're using all factory parts actually, throw out these column covers. Don't be cheap, they're only like $50, but I mean, if you really want, you can spend $20 on some camouflage duct tape and it'll look real nice like Johnny's first gen. Another important thing to remember is your reverse lights will not work when you swap the transmission out. You need to run a fused power down to the reverse switch on the side of the transmission. It's on the passenger side. And make sure it's fused in case anything shorts. Then it'll pop fuse first. Then you just run that back to the harness and you just tap back in the harness. So when you pop her in reverse, the lights will come right on. Anything else that needs to be left there, like the wiring harness and stuff, that does not work with this ZF, that you don't need, but it's still in part of the loom. You need to zip tie it up out of the way and just make sure no crap's gonna get in the ends and cause shorts and stuff like that. That's gonna cause you lots of problems. We use the Duramax zip ties. They're pretty rugged and they seem to be the best for this brand of truck. You can get them at your local Dollarama and just zip tie it up against the frame. So that basically wraps up this episode. If you have any questions about how we did this swap, make sure you ask. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, because the next episode is going to be really cool. We're going to do some more major modifications.